Hey guys, it's Tony, and we're back on the bench. And this evening, we're going to be doing a disassembly service, only the disassembly service on this Abu Garcia Cardinal Custom Lite 2. Okay, now I recently did a short little video on this reel because it has some problems, one of which we've already remedied. And I wanted to talk about that. First off, is it's got a considerable amount of bearing noise. We want to try to fix that if we can. I'd prefer not to go ordering a brand new bearing for it because, as you can see, this reel's been heavily used, and I got it very cheap. I don't really want to dump a lot of money into it, but I would like to use it actually and make it part of my own personal arsenal of gear. So in short, what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can't, replace that with a better bearing that I might happen to have, kicking around. But another issue that this reel had is the bail would not fire, and it fires now. But as a result of that video, we found that it actually had a broken bail spring. Okay, and this is a common problem, with spinning reels. And I just so happen to have a reel in a bag, which happens to be a Shimano GRX 1300 in a bunch of parts. And I actually bought this reel as a parts reel for another one of the same model that I actually used and caught a big fish with, kind of by accident almost. And it actually bent the main drive shaft, and so that's the story behind that. But the spring, the bail spring for that reel, just happens to work for this one, which I never would have thought, but it's a good deal and it works out okay. So in short, we're going to take this reel apart and we're going to see how it's made. I do believe this is a worm gear drive reel, but I've never actually worked on this particular one. I've worked on a lot of other Cardinals before, so we're going to find out here shortly. But this reel, it's definitely got some wear and tear on it for sure. Okay, and yeah, another thing is the drag stack up here. It had a little issue up here with the top ring that we had to remedy as well. Okay, so we've got a couple of screws here. This is a 3 ball bearing reel, by the way. But yeah, I'm going to just do the disassembly in this because I feel there's going to be a lot of cleaning and just a lot of work involved in these tiny little parts with this reel. And we're going to find out here shortly what it's really about here. So we've got 3 screws down here. This is where these parts trays come in very handy. But yeah, I'm hoping that I might have a replacement bearing that will fit this, that will be a quieter bearing at that, but we will see in time. Unfortunately, just getting even just one brand new ball bearing replacement for a fishing reel is an expensive task these days. Between the shipping and the handling and the cost of the bearing, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Okay. So we got a side plate. Here's one of our bearings right here. And I'm pretty confident that this one is probably okay. Yeah, it feels very, very smooth actually. So I'm not convinced that that one needs to be replaced. But just for good measure, we're going to put that in there, and we're going to take a little bit of WD-40 to that while we're working here. Okay, and actually, to my surprise, this is not a worm gear drive, and I'm actually somewhat happy about that because as good as those reels are with the worm gear, I think that's the size 3s and 4s and up. Um, they're quite difficult to work on sometimes. So okay, so this is a situation where we have to get the we have to get this drive line out, and that's a little tricky to do with the way this is. So we got to take this bottom screw out next in order to get our main gear out. It's tight quarters in there for sure. You want to be careful when you're doing what we're doing right here. You just want to be gentle with this hardware because it's soft metal that you're dealing with here. And I'm basically turning this screw out so I can get that out, like so. Okay, we got our drive line there. We're going to clean up all these parts, of course, in their entirety. So we got a main gear, and it doesn't look like it's in bad shape. Okay, and then we've got a block. You know, chances are this is holding a lot of the original grease, I would guess. Okay, we got a crosswind gear. All right, so this is a basic setup here. It's nothing fancy or unusual. And from what I'm seeing here, I would expect to see a bearing down here, but this is actually a bushing on this side here. On that side, and we're going to try to get that bushing out if we can. Okay, well, we're going to have a closer look at that once we get this off here. So we've got our rotor nut here, and we're going to need a socket or a wrench to take that out. I'm just going to use a socket. Looks like it's probably maybe a 12 mil. Yeah, that's a 12 mil. And we're going to take the 1/4 inch drive ratchet here to that. Looks like this is reverse threaded, so that's one thing to note. And we're going to gently take off our rotor. Yeah, this has got a lot of old gummed up grease and stuff here, so we're going to spend some time cleaning that up, of course. Okay. I'm still curious to know where that third ball bearing is. It could be under the line roller, potentially, but it's definitely, I'm confident it's not under here on the other side. It's just a plastic bushing there. Okay, so we've got these set screws here that holds this plate. Now, this is an important part. You want to make note of the orientation of this ramp right here, okay, and how it's directly in line with the real seat, all right? It needs to go back exactly like that, okay? So that's a good point to take pictures if you want, or take a video. But we're going to pop these screws out here, and we're going to see the size of this bearing here. This is where needle nose kind of comes in handy to move these small parts around when you need to. Okay. All right, so we got a pinion gear and we got a main bearing right here. Okay. All right, so we're going to slowly take that bearing off. Okay. Then there's also this ratchet here. And you want to make sure that that ratchet goes back on exactly the same way. I'm going to keep it this way just for now. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be spraying these parts down here with some WD-40. I'm going to walk away for a little while, pause the video, and let this stuff do its magic. Little cleaning work here. Okay, now for this main bearing, I mean, I mean, it doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it, it isn't. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try to clean that up too. And that is a different bearing than the side one. Okay. And then as far as the rest of this goes, it's just going to be cleaning out all this old grease. You can see we've got some old hardened grease in here and stuff like that. And that's where these Q-tips come in. We're going to be spending a lot of time just cleaning that up. But yeah, we've got a plastic bushing on the other side. So where that third ball bearing is, I'm not 100% confident. It could very likely be on the inside of this line roller here, I'm guessing. Okay. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to clean up all these parts. And we're going to pause the video. We're going to come back and we're going to have a quick look at these parts and see, what they're supposed to, look like once they're clean. Okay, so we're back and we've been spending a bunch of time cleaning up all these parts here, cleaning out the inner housing of the reel. Okay, all these parts look really good now at this point. So a couple of things to note here is our main bearing, which has been soaking in some WD-40 here. Unfortunately, I mean, it is worn. The bearings are worn in this little bearing, and it's exposed on just the one side, it looks like, and it's sealed from underneath, okay? But unfortunately, I don't have a replacement bearing that's going to work for this on hand. So what I'm probably going to attempt to do is probably just refill this bearing with some fresh oil and see if that quiets it down. Going against what I normally do, another trick that you can do to lessen bearing noise is to pack them with some grease. But I'm not a big fan of grease usually, just because it attracts a lot of dirt and grime and things of that sort. Okay, so that's something that we're going to look into in the rebuild, though. Now, for the last bearing, the mystery bearing in this reel, it happens to be underneath here. Okay. Underneath the spool here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all this apart and get that bearing out, because that could be making a lot of the chatter noise as well. And as you can see, we've got a drag stack here that is a little temperamental. And this is something that I was looking at earlier when I first started looking at the reel. And I'm actually not 100% sure if this is the original drag stack or not, but we're going to pull all these out and we're going to have a look here. We're going to see what we got. Yeah, it looks like we've got some old washers here, and I'm not convinced that this is the right drag stack for the reel just because of the size of these washers. They look like they're some kind of replacement. Again, this reel was heavily fished, and so it's possible that this drag stack has been gone through a few times. But I'm going to go back through my inventory and I'm going to see, because what I don't care for in this is there's quite a bit of play in these washers here, and I'm not 100% sure that that's supposed to be that way. But we're going to have a look at that later. Okay, so we've got 2 screws here in these positions. I'm just going to hit this with a little bit of WD-40 right now, just because judging from the state of this reel, it has some evidence of some corrosion damage possibly, or some rust damage in there. So I'm going to take those 2 screws out, and there is our mystery bearing right here. And this is one where it's exposed on both ends, but you can see there's a lot of dirt and stuff caught up in there. And so we're definitely going to want to be cleaning that out. And that could also be contributing to some of the noise that we're experiencing as well. Okay, and then there is a washer here. Okay. So that's basically it, though, for the disassembly. So at this point, What it's really about is continuing cleaning up the rest of these parts here, and then getting this reel as close as we can get it to doing some reassembly, which will be in a separate video. So thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe and hit the notification button. And that way you'll get all the updates as to when there are new videos coming out. And I should have quite a few more coming out, starting with the rebuild of this Abu Garcia Cardinal custom Lite 2. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.